My name is Wayne Harding. I'm Chief Financial Officer for Two Rivers Water and Farming Company, which is a public company since 2006. We're fully reporting. We're in the irrigated farming and water business in southeast Colorado. We recently formed a subdivision that we're a majority owner of, GrowCo Inc., which is part of our set of companies. And because we're publicly traded, I need to say that we're going to be giving you some forward-looking statements, some projections, and we're going to rely on the Safe Harbor Act that the SEC affords us. So I'm going to quickly turn this over to Aaron Van Wingerden, who is our senior consultant, and also on stage with me is Tim Bell, who's the Chief Operating Officer for GrowCo. But people sometimes ask me, before we get Aaron up there, some people sometimes ask me, well, why is Two Rivers in the development of greenhouse space to be leased out to cannabis growers and also provide auxiliary services to our tenants? And it's because, and you know this, you've probably gone to some of the sessions, this market is huge. And just Colorado by itself, last year was $700 million market. This year is going to be $1 billion market. It's growing rapidly at 30 to 50% per year. As more and more states come on, we believe that we can expand our services outside of Colorado after we do our initial 4 greenhouses within Colorado. And also just got done speaking for some overseas folks about also expanding internationally. GrowCo will be the #1 provider and ultra-modern greenhouses for the cannabis grower space worldwide. So to tell you the differentiations between greenhouse and warehouse and go into our greenhouse business model, I'm going to have Aaron join me on stage.
As Wayne mentioned, my name is Aaron Van Wingerden. I am a 3rd-generation greenhouse grower operator. My family has been growing flowers, bedding plants, perennials, annuals for the last 40 years in the United States. Combined total growing space. Combined total growing space of over 40 million square feet. We sell to Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Kroger, just to name a few. I presently own a 700,000 square foot greenhouse that sells bedding plants to Kroger in the state of Colorado. We're entering our 10th year of business, and me and my collective team have over 20 years in the greenhouse operation business experience, with over 7 million square feet of greenhouse that we have grown or operated over the last few years. How I got into cannabis a few years ago, I started doing it as a brokerage through my current flower company to these indoor guys because they were getting hand over fist beat up with pricing. So I would buy in the same material if they were a 10th of the cost and resell to them. That's how it initially got started with my role in the cannabis industry, and then it kind of morphed into as a consultant for a lot of grows. I've been inside over 50 grows, big and small, throughout Colorado. And we started a grower consulting group at my greenhouse. We would bring them out, show them different ways of growing, things to look at, new ways to do pesticides, fertilizing, etc. And I just want to speak quickly on the woes of warehouse growing. Obviously, it has been what it is for the last 30 years because of it being a taboo, the don't ask, don't tell policy, if you will. Had to grow inside because it had to be hidden, or specific zoning laws, like in Colorado, you can only build and grow marijuana in an industrial zoning for the last few years. That changed last year when they allowed it in an agricultural zoning development. So that's why we can put up greenhouses in Puebla. It's an antiquated way of growing now that laws in society have changed their ways about looking at marijuana. So, the transition from warehouse to greenhouse is an easy one. Number one, because of the lights that you have to have inside a warehouse, can't replicate the sun, no matter how hard you try. Plants absorb more total light from the sun than they will from lights. Lights give light that comes direct. Sun is 360 degrees, if you will. Plants can absorb it throughout the whole realm of growing. Energy costs to run these lights. It's huge. These guys have major electric bills to try and replicate the sun, but we don't have that problem. Heating issues caused from running these lights during the summer months is major. Humidity, which can cause all kinds of mold and pest issues. I mean, all the water that you put into these plants have nowhere to go inside of a warehouse. And a confined space, the flow and the labor efficiency problems in a warehouse are paramount everywhere. Also, when you grow in a warehouse, you can only grow the plants so big, or you can only grow so many plants. So you would reduce either your plant count or the size of your plants, basically reducing the way the plant should be grown. Over the last 20 years, the strains coming out of Holland, in my opinion, have been bred to be weaker so they can conform to this indoor environment. And last but not least, a lot of consumers of this product are eco-environmentally friendly. It's not a very eco-environment friendly type production we're doing inside warehouses. You get a huge carbon footprint with each plant they grow inside a warehouse. So the greenhouse advantages, there's many of them. Obviously sun, we already talked about that. But our greenhouse you see here built in the picture is built with a double poly plastic roof. The reason we do that instead of glass is that poly allows the sun to be diffused. And what I mean by that is under a glass roof you have direct light that hits the plant. Plants' receptacles can only take up so much micromoles of sun under direct light before they turn off their growing receptacles, and they just sit there. Under diffused light, they can absorb 100% of the light micromoles that come through there because you're not slamming it with all that energy from the sun. The analogy I like to use is if you have a foliage plant on your kitchen countertop and you throw a cup of water on that foliage plant right away, 30% of it will spill off onto your counter. If you take that same cup of water and put it into a spray bottle and mist that water onto that plant over 10 minutes, the plant absorbs everything. We're doing the same thing. We're misting light. We also have open roof design combined with bottom heat, as well as cooling pad and exhaust fans. So think of like a really big giant swamp cooler. We're pulling cold air through the greenhouse on the hottest days. We're opening up the vent. The roof peaks naturally open to allow that humidity to escape. And we're running our bottom heat to eliminate humidity caused by the cooling pads. We have environmental controls throughout the greenhouse that allow us to manipulate temperatures within 1 to 2 degrees. And we can lift the temperature on the coldest winter days by 75 degrees and cool it on the hottest summer days by 35 degrees with this technology. We also have auto integration systems throughout the greenhouse that we're building that delivers exact water to each plant as the others get it. That eliminates human error. One guy's watering pot to pot to pot, can water one plant for 3 seconds, another one for 5 seconds, and you get variable growth. The design of these greenhouses is not just designed to grow plants, but also labor efficiency. You're not working in a claustrophobic warehouse. You've got some elbow room. Labor costs are huge in this industry, and for us, we think we can run a 2-acre facility and generate 10,000 pounds of dry bud per year utilizing only 30 employees. At the current market rate of $1,000 per pound wholesale, that's anticipated price, that's over $300,000 of sales revenue per employee. So you can see we're much more efficient in the way that we do things than in a warehouse. The flower industry the last 40, 50 years has made great strides in growing and designing of these greenhouses that I've been a personal part of. And by taking this technology and implementing it into the marijuana world, it's just a natural movement, and we can use all the information that we've gleaned over these past few decades to really revolutionize the way that this is grown. There's no reason to spend $600-700 a pound to grow this plant. So that's my spiel in summary. Ask any growing or product questions specifically.
Yeah, is this greenhouse structures, can they only be built specific to like the Southwest because they have about 300 days in a year? Or
No.
Conditions?
The question was, can these greenhouses be built anywhere? And the answer to that is yes. You start with a base model, and one of my uncles has been designing and building greenhouse structures for 35 years. So you start with a base model, you decide what kind of humidity you're looking for, what kind of light you're looking for, and you can design the greenhouse structure based around your climate. So for instance, if we're building in Washington State, where they get really cloudy days, we would implement light technology, not nearly to the level that you would inside a warehouse, but just enough so that plant continues to grow. And you also would grow specific strains. There's 400 different varieties of marijuana out there. Some strains like high light, some strains don't. You know, it's just like in the flower world, petunias want a really sunny environment, begonias want shade and patience. So you would specify your strains based on the environment that you're in, growing in these facilities.
Would adding that light change the strain variability?
No, would adding the light change the strain variability? No. Variability on plant growth does happen in the growing environment, but strains are strains. You can make it turn purple by making the temperature real cold, or turn white by turning off the fertilizer. But so long as you're growing within a criteria that the plant wants, you can grow almost any strain anywhere if you want to really take the time to do it. You know, we're going to pick our top 20 home runs for Colorado and stick to those. I have, you know, my personal opinion is that this market's going to go to the Coors Light, Miller Lite world of one group, and that's the greenhouse group, and then the indoor guys that invested all this money don't want to get out of that space. Well, they can grow all the finicky varieties and become the microbrewer of the industry. So, to build, it's anywhere from $45 to $50 a square foot to build.
Yep.
And we would line up the tenants, GrowCo lines up the tenants, and they're on a lease rate of $20 a square foot per year.
And then, assuming I've got a building permit in hand, shovel's ready to go, how long does it take to?
You know, GrowCo is positioning itself to give you the whole package, start to finish. You know, you have the license, you have the land, we will come and design, build the greenhouse for you, assist in training your employees or our employees, or a combination of the two that can run it after it's built. And that process probably would take 4 to 5 months if the land had gas and electric on it. If it's out in the middle of a field, you're looking at 6 to 8 months. Any other questions? Okay.
What's the footprint throughout the U.S. where this is viable before you get into like certain northern climates where it's not viable?
It's viable anyway. There's greenhouses that grow tomatoes in Canada. It's a huge industry. Greenhouses like this, and tomatoes require high light, so they're adding supplemental lights up there, but they get, the reason why they're big and growing tomatoes up there with light, they get a rebate from the government to run their electric. So for them, it doesn't matter as much as Colorado. If you're growing in, like I said, Washington State, you can put up as many greenhouses as you want. You just need to manipulate how many lights you're putting up versus how little light you need down in Colorado.
And the follow-up question would be, so if you can grow 10,000 pounds of marijuana in this greenhouse over the course of a year, what's the approximate cost per pound to grow that, not factored in the lease cost, just factored in the actual
COGS? Yeah, the cost of, he's asking what the cost is to grow this plant, not adding in the lease, correct?
Yes.
Our performers project we can grow $250 to $300 a pound on the high end. Now, I would suggest that it's going to be lower than that once we get capable personnel into these facilities and run them properly. But right now, the wholesale market rate in the low end is $1,000 a pound, so the return on investment's there already.
And that cost figure, that includes labor, that's
Yes.
labor, materials?
Everything. Any other questions? Yes.
How do you secure product there?
It's a good question. How do we secure products? These are built with, you can't see it in this picture, but there is a 8-foot razor wire fence that runs the entire perimeter of the property. In front of that fence, there is a 8-foot ditch that's 4 feet wide that surrounds the entire perimeter as well. And then there's a entryway that there is a guard shack, if you will, at 24 hours. So there's nobody's coming in with a car, nobody's coming over by themselves on foot, and anybody going in and out. It's on camera. I mean, there's 72 cameras in this facility already. That's required by Colorado law. I'm sure those laws are going to translate anywhere you go, but you know, the monitoring systems will be there, 24-hour guard on site at all times. Anybody else? All right, yeah.
So you said you can grow 10,000 pounds of marijuana in a 2-acre facility in the greenhouse. What would that compare to in the warehouse? In the warehouse facility?
A warehouse facility, we can grow 10,000 pounds in a greenhouse, 100,000 square foot of greenhouse. How does that compare to 100,000 square foot of warehouse? I haven't seen a 100,000 square foot warehouse yet, but you know, these guys usually do 3 turns a year, maybe 4 turns a year if they're really good. Glut of product, if you will, and every 3 months they're doing the glut of product. Our goal is to have a weekly production plan. So in Colorado, for instance, you can only have so many plants. Tier 1 rec licenses, it's only 3,600 plants. So we would every week be harvesting 300 plants, sticking 300 new ones, producing 300 new ones, moving 300 from veg into flower, and have a cyclable production plan. Every week we're harvesting down 500 pounds instead, or whatever the math equates to be, depending on your plant count. So in the same space of a warehouse, I couldn't tell you. Definitely not that much, and not at the cost that we can do it for.
Is this the 3-turn, when you're saying 10,000 pounds a year, is that a 3-turn warehouse, if you will, or I mean a 3-turn greenhouse, if you will?
The question was 10,000 pounds, 3 turns in a year. No, the goal here is, you know, taking down 3,600 plants every 3 months is a very large undertaking. You're talking about an army of people down there hacking down trees. Our gutter height is at 14 foot, so we can grow these guys, these plants 8, 9, 10 feet, depending on the strain, as needed. It's not what I would prefer as a grower, but you know, if you're limited by plant count, you need to get as big a plant as possible. Now, the production plan would be, as I just stated here, would be to take down 200 plants every week consistently. So every Friday you're harvesting 200 plants and you're recycling that the plants in a moving system every week. So you're employing 30 people full time all the time, not 200 people for a month and then everybody gets laid off in 3 months.
So that's 5,200 plants on the truck?
Don't quote me on that math. I was just throwing it out there. It's 3,600 plants. We can have 3,600 plants in the greenhouse at all times.
Okay.
So the math can equate to, you know, harvesting 186 or something like that every week, and we can continually pull down 186 plants or something along those lines. The figures are on a spreadsheet somewhere. Tim, you can answer that.
Yeah. So that's kind of. Could someone turn this down?
Just hold it farther away.
Anyway, so plants, it's all about the light per square foot. Same thing with an indoor. You know, if you read any of the indoor things, it's all about, we have 20 plants and we got 5 pounds, and we put in 50 plants into the same space, and we still only got the same pounds. So it's very similar to that in the greenhouse, but there's a lot of other additional operational things where it's a lot easier to grow a plant smaller and to harvest it and some of these things than, you know, wait a longer time and grow it really big. And so where the math gets a little bit funky and operations, people like Aaron don't want to sign on the bottom line, it's because of those variables, and it's a more challenging environment to have only 3,600 plants than if we had, say, 20,000 plant count in the same type of structure.
So like, for instance, you know, Colorado is limited by its plant count, I said before, but Maryland, which is about to come online this year, they're only giving away 15 licenses. But each of those 15 licenses, may the best man win. They're going to let them grow as many as they want. So in that kind of environment, we would grow 10,000 little plants and harvest constantly. You know, this is marijuana is an obligate short day plant, so you have to have 8 weeks of darkness in a 24-hour, or more darkness than light in a 24-hour period. So you have to trick the plant by giving it more than 12 hours of darkness in the summer months, and we have that technology in the greenhouse too, so you can harvest every week. So if we're doing that on a smaller scale, you wouldn't you wouldn't spend so much time in the vegetative stage. Where we are limited by plant count in Colorado, you spend a lot of time in the vegetative stage, get that plant really big before you put it into the flowering stage, and then grow it for those 8 weeks until it transitions into its flower. Anybody else? Yeah.
What is the height clearance?
I'm sorry.
What is the height?
What's the height clearance? The bottom of the gutter is 14 foot from the growing floor, and then our roofs are about 4 feet peaked. So from ground to the top of the peak is about 20 feet. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stop by and see our booth. 1:15.
Thank you.